Welcome to the Lost and Found podcast. I'm your host, Amanda. Join me each week as I rediscover my life's meaning, my passions, and my place in this world after leaving behind the only dream I've ever known. If you are dealing with self-loss, identity changes, career transitions, or you are still trying to figure out your life's purpose, then you're not alone. Join me. Wanderers are always welcome. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Lost and Found podcast. This is your host, Amanda. I am so excited to be here. This has been such a good couple of weeks, and we're just going to keep riding that high. But in particular, I'm excited to be here because today, the day of recording, is the second anniversary of the Lost and Found podcast. And I've been reflecting a lot and reminiscing a lot, mostly with myself because no one else is here. But it's been kind of a wild ride. And time is such a weird construct. I'm starting to understand more and more why Mariah Carey is just like, time's not real. I do what I want, or I don't constitute or agree to it. What is time? What is money? I'm just kidding. That's actually very real. But hi, welcome to episode 105. I'm so proud to be able to say that we made it. We did it. When I first started this show out, you may remember, if you're an OG and you've been listening from the beginning, thank you, love you, appreciate you. If you're brand new here, I used to say to myself, Amanda, just try it for 6 months, see how you feel. Try it for 10 months, see how you feel. Try it for a year, try it for a year and a half, see how you feel. And now we're at 2 years of podcast episodes, and I feel lots of things. Elated, exhausted, proud, frustrated sometimes, because I'm still just making it up as I go and trying to figure out what's real, what's a good strategy, what's not a good strategy, what's the right strategy. Am I even saying anything important anymore? Who knows? But the overall feeling is pride. And just, not really not humility. I need more humility in my life. No, pride and just, I guess, grace. I don't know what the right word is for giving an old version of myself grace and learning to be proud of her and empathetic towards her, because 2 years ago, I was at probably my emotional rock bottom, and not in a drastic way necessarily or a dangerous way, but just a really hard rock bottom that I had never seen before, and I was really worried about who I was becoming, why I was feeling certain ways, why I was so frustrated with my life and the direction that things were going in, and feeling like you're on top of the world, living in your purpose, doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you were meant to do in this life. And then when that gets completely upended, and mine was unfortunately, I did make a choice to leave and start over with my life, of course, but that was after I felt like I had hit way too many brick walls for it to be a coincidence. And so for anybody that might be new here at this point, really quick version is that I grew up in Nashville. I went to the University of Mississippi. I studied psychology and intelligence and security studies between 2009 and 2013-ish. And then I took a 10-month contract with FEMA, worked as a disaster and emergency responder for 10 months to a year. And then after that, worked in various, odd jobs until I could get my clearance, and I became a contractor for the FBI. Did that for 3 years. Left for a contract that would have been with the White House, the executive office of the president. When that did not work out, I moved on back to odd jobs until I could get back in as a contractor with the Defense Intelligence Agency. Did defense intelligence for quite a while with the DoD for a contractor, and then went back to FEMA as a full-time employee. At that point, I was working for their external affairs division. Absolutely loved it, killed it. I miss that branch all the time. And then I went to the FBI as a full-time employee for 3 years as an intelligence analyst. And that changed my trajectory completely, because that had been the thing that I had been hoping to be and tried to work for so long. And then COVID hits, and, the rest is history. Lots of things happened in between there, but that's the short version. If you want to, you can go back to the beginning. The episode number 2 is the in-depth episode that really explains my entire career. It's about an hour and a half long, so buckle up. But it gives you more detail and insight into what's going on in my mind then. But about a year after leaving the Bureau, I thought that making that big life transition would be the right thing because I felt relief when I left that job, but I still felt empty inside. And I didn't understand why I still felt so empty inside. And I thought, you've always had it together. I always prided myself on being the person that quote unquote has it together or has their life figured out, knows what they want, goes after what they want, follows through on what they want. You'll notice integrity is a very big theme throughout this podcast. But when I walked away from the thing that I said that I wanted and worked so hard to get, it felt flippant and it felt like I was beating myself up over making a decision to walk away from something. And the truth is that's a very twisted way to think about it, but I was struggling creatively, emotionally, mentally, and I had always wanted to do a podcast, always dreamed of, getting behind the mic, which at first, you would think like, oh my God, you worked in national security. You can't talk publicly. You can't do all these things. You can't show off a persona online. And you're right, you can't. And so I never did until I left. But turns out when I was a really little girl, I was extremely creative and wrote, little kid novels. They're their version of a chapter book story, but would write stories and screenplays and book chapters and poems and tons of art all the time. I was a dancer, went to improv school, improv camp, did competitive improv, and went to director's camp and theater camp in it. I was in it to be creative and out there, not necessarily craving stage life, but just creating a universe that could look and reflect back on what exactly it is that I'm feeling. I think Taylor Swift, she's been on tour recently. For those of you that may not know, the most internationally recognized star released her 12th studio album, The Life of a Showgirl. And in one of the interviews, she talks about how ironic it is sometimes that as a musician or as an artist or a creator, when you put your music out there, writing an album is often a mirror that reflects what's going on in your life in that moment or in that time period when the songs were written. And that reflection and that mirror is your opportunity to put yourself out there and to share that with the world. And not everybody's going to appreciate it. Not everybody's going to like it, but doing so helps the artist. It helps them think through and evaluate and do all that internalization, looking inward on themselves and really being honest with who they are and where they are and what's going on in their life. And so I started this podcast 2 years ago to do that. And I have learned a lot and talked to a lot of really cool people, amazing people. And I kept going through my head, you have to say something for the 2-year anniversary. This is a big deal. You work full-time somewhere else. You don't have a production crew. You don't have a director. This is you. You're wearing all the hats. You're the creator, writer, editor, researcher, guest booker, social media producer, and designer. You're doing all of it. And this is quite an accomplishment to have kept it going for 2 years, despite everything else that you've got going on in your life or with your family. So you need to say something. And quite honestly, I couldn't think of something that I felt like was important enough or significant enough. I think last year when I did it for the 1-year anniversary, we went through 12 lessons in 12 months. Kind of a deal. A lot of people do that. I've seen other influencers do that for their birthdays, like when 37 lessons in 37 years. And so they'll talk about that kind of podcast or whatever. And I didn't want to do that right now. Another 12 lessons in 12 months. I did in my notes app, I do have a second anniversary lessons list. But for any of you that know me, or if you've been around for a while on this show, I've talked about I can't come on the mic or I can't come onto the episode and act like the subject matter I'm going to talk about doesn't relate in that moment, right? If I'm not feeling it, it's not going to come off right. And I don't want to talk about a topic that doesn't feel authentic to what I'm thinking and feeling in that moment. So while those lessons that I wrote down for today's date are good, I think I will save them for another episode for another day. Today, I want to talk to you about what I've been reflecting on. And a lot lately for what I've been thinking about is living your life and living an unfulfilled life. And how one of my greatest fears right now, I have a lot of fears. There's a lot of real ones, tangible ones, silly ones, financial ones, emotional ones. But I think one of the lessons that I've learned from interviewing all these people and doing all these solo episodes for the last 2 years is that the thing I'm most afraid of, really, when I dig deep down and understand who I am and what I'm talking about all the time, is that I'm afraid of living an unfulfilled life. Going through the motions, doing what people tell me to do, living up to other people's expectations, finding out that everything that I had worked for meant nothing, or I couldn't spin it in a way to make it a positive when a failure happens or when a transition happens or when a pivot happens in my life. And I don't want to get to I'm living near my grandparents, right? I made a major change this year to move out of Nashville and to move into one of my parents' rental houses and suck it up, for lack of a better word right now. We're not going to get further into that. Pivoting again and downsizing and minimalizing my life. And I'm living near my grandparents now, and they're much older. They're starting to go through their own health issues. They're starting to struggle with things, and every now and then they'll make comments about, I wish I had done, or I only have so much time left to do X. I really need to follow through on that, or I wish I could try this or think this or read this or do whatever it is, right? And I think that that's it. That's what I'm struggling with too. And that reality, I have to face that every day while I'm living here because I have to watch them do that, right? And if I'm lucky, I'll get another 60 years to figure out how to make a fulfilled life. But the only way to make a fulfilled life really, for me, is that I have to define it. I have to pursue it. I have to figure out what it is that makes a fulfilled life. I have to choose those things that are going to become a part of that. And then not only do I have to figure out what a fulfilled life is going to look like, I have to actually go out there and do it. I can't just talk about it for forever. Just talking about it doesn't change anything. Talking about it doesn't necessarily manifest it into reality. I have to follow through on all the little micro things and macro things to strategically actually make that come to fruition for me. I have to say yes to things that I would normally say no to. I have to put myself in rooms that I might be uncomfortable to be in, but that I know I'm meant to be in. I need to network in places that will help me get to that fulfilled place, that fulfilled moment. And that's what I really want to talk about with you today, is that looking back on these last 2 years, previous Amanda was desperate for anything to make the pain go away, anything to make her feel like less of a failure, anything to make her feel like she was not a disappointment, anything that would help her connect to her intuition again, to her inner knowing, to the part of her that always thought, I know what to do next. I know where to go next. I know the step I need to take. I know the path that I need to follow. And I wanted that insight so badly. And it's taken me 2 years to get to the point that the truth is, Amanda, that you needed a fulfilled life and you didn't have one. You were chasing that dream because it made sense, right? And there's nothing wrong with that dream. And this is absolutely no shade to anybody that is still a federal employee. I have tons of friends that are still in the federal ranks, from the military branches to all the different, to all the different 3-letter agencies. I do. And I love them. I respect them. And I wouldn't be where I am without that support system. You were chasing something that you thought would work. And when it didn't work, it wasn't really a reflection on my bad judgment. It just meant it wasn't the path. And now what a blessing it is to realize that you can get derailed, really and truly derailed, to find the new one, to find the next one. And so I want to talk about that, because at the end of the day, each and every one of you, I hope, is living a fulfilled life. Not the one that other people want you to have, not the one that you thought you were supposed to have, not the one that maybe isn't like meant for you, or like not the one where you're constantly banging your head against the wall thinking like, oh, this is supposed to work. Everybody told me it was going to work. I just need to suck it up, push through. Keep going. Like, this is just a bad day. This is just whatever. They told me life would be hard. This is just a hard moment. And sometimes that is true. That absolutely is true. But sometimes you're putting so much pressure on yourself to make something happen that's just truly not meant to be, that you are blinded to the misery you have while you dig your own hole, while you dig your own grave, right? And I want you guys to, metaphorically, I want you all to stop digging the grave. Stop digging the grave. Stop burying your feelings. Stop avoiding whatever it is that's actually going to make you happy. Because at the end of the day, you can't take it with you when you die. The only opportunity you've got at the end of the day is to say, did I live a fulfilled life? Not did I get everything that I want? Not did I, hit all my sales goals? Did I make X amount of money? Did I get exactly the exact house, the exact car, the exact partner, the exact number of kids? Like, not the goals that people are setting for you, or that society has set for you, or the expectations that other people have or impose on you. Did you live, or are you living your version of a fulfilled life? And if not, then let's talk about it. That's really the deal here. Have I reached my perfect life? Absolutely not. Have I reached the perfect goal for this podcast yet? Absolutely not. I want it to grow huge. I want it to be as big as, the heavy hitters, the Joe Rogans, the Mel Robbins, the the Jay Shettys, the Case Kennys, the Eddie Pineros, like all the other people that I admire that are in the space that are doing it every day, day in and day out. They've built out their teams and their lifestyles around their ability to share their stories and connect people to others, to strangers, to thoughts or methodologies or templates or mindsets that you may have never had otherwise. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be in that because I know what it's like to be so deep in your own bullshit and so miserable after losing yourself that you don't think there's ever going to be an option otherwise. And getting to a point where I can stand up in my grave and go, nope, I'm getting out of here. This is not it. This is not the end of my life. This is not the end of my fulfillment. This is not the end of my road. This is not it. So that's where I want to go. That's what I want to do. I want to grow the show. I'm not done yet. Am I happy? I think I'm closer to a happiness than I've been in quite a long time. Do I have everything that I want out of my life? No. I still have a lot of fear, a lot of worries, but I know that I'm doing the right thing for me at this moment in my life. Downsizing was the right choice. Spending more time with my family was the right choice. These are hours, days, months, years that I will never get back. There will never be another opportunity for me to be this age at this moment with my family, and vice versa for them. Investing in that social wealth or that familial wealth right now is more important than doing whatever I was trying to do in other places. So for today's topic, let's talk about what it means to live a fulfilled life. So I found this Instagram post way back in September. I saved it for something to talk about. And again, I'm just assuming that whoever these people are actually wrote this and it's not like AI created, but I thought that the topics were interesting. And especially because these are conversations that I am having right now with my own family around and with my grandparents around. So it starts off saying, if you don't want to end up living a life that you regret, read this. All you need to do is take a good look at all the older people who didn't get to live the life that they wanted, and it will become obvious that the causes are always the same, generation after generation. Number one, they were scared of commitment. They were so smart that they always kept too many options open. They didn't go for the person they truly wanted to be with. They didn't go all in on anything, even when they had nothing to lose. They didn't quit the comfy job that did not allow them to grow. They didn't fly to the place that they truly wanted to be. They never took any real jump. Woof. So this is huge because being scared of commitment comes up a lot, right? Like I'm in my 30s, so I'm dating. I'm trying to build a life for myself. And it's hard to know where you want to commit your time. Where do you commit your energy? Where do you commit your relationships? And sometimes it's called analysis paralysis or choice paralysis, where there's so many options available that you get stuck or you freeze because you don't really know what direction to go in, or you spend way too much time trying to analyze the pros and cons of every single option that you just never make a choice, because the safest option is to just sit still and not move at all. And while it may feel that way, the truth is you never get an opportunity to walk down any of those paths. You never get to find out. You never get to fuck around and find out. So when you don't take a risk on yourself, you never have an opportunity to grow. And if you can't commit to anything, how can people trust you to follow through on anything? If you're not going to jump, where are you going to go? Number two, they were living in their mind. They spent their time judging the success of others instead of training their own talents. They kept making excuses about why they couldn't do whatever they were afraid of trying. They never realized that life was short and that no one really ever cared, and that they would miss out on life not because of their lack of intelligence or talent, but because of their lack of courage. So one of the biggest things about living a fulfilled life, I think everybody says that you, at some point, whether it's in your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, whatever, at some point you do wake up one day and you're like, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I don't care what anybody else wants. I'm going to act, do, be who I am, who I want to be. And by doing that, I enable myself to live an authentic life and show that being yourself helps build confidence. It builds your happiness. It builds better relationships with the people around you. You build trust. You build reliability by understanding who each other are because you're living exactly as you are. And when you spend so much time living in your own mind or second guessing yourself, doubting yourself, judging your own success based on what other people are doing around you, that comparison game steals your happiness. That comparison game robs you of your joy. That comparison game prevents you from ever trying at all. And so you can't live a fulfilled life if you're stuck in your own head. Number 3, they never understood the importance of a healthy body. They thought that they had mental health struggles, but they actually had physical deficiencies. They never unlearned their bad habits because they never just distanced themselves from all the people who considered those bad habits normal. They took it personally and got offended if anyone suggested any lifestyle changes. They never experienced life in a clear mind or a high energy version of themselves, and somehow they started to believe that it was normal to feel sluggish, moody, and gloomy once in a while. Okay, this is not a show that harps on physical health. Physical health is very important to me. So in my personal brand, like if you watch my stories or anything like that, you'll notice I do work out. I talk about Honor Active all the time. I'm constantly wearing athleisure. This shirt is from Petula Actives. I am very much physical fitness oriented. My parents were athletes. My brother was a decathlete. I did soccer and basketball. So we've been a physical family for quite a long time. I am not the healthiest, right? I'm not 100% perfect. I'm not going to sit here and preach to you that I have the exact diet or the exact workout routine, but I broke my leg earlier this year. And so I got real close to getting real upset by not being physically active anymore because I had ingrained it into my lifestyle, and letting go of that part of me to heal sucked. I hated it. And that's how I know that I've built up a life where having a healthy body is so important. And I can see that in my grandparents too, when they're dealing with different versions of cancer or medical problems, having to take a lot of supplements or pills that are helping them manage their pain or their blood pressure or their heart or their lungs or whatever. And I can see the toll that it takes on them by not having the physical body that they used to have, or having a body that feels like it is starting to fail you. If you know emotionally and mentally you're still there and you want to do these things, but your body is not matching up, it can be incredibly constraining and I'm sure decimating you emotionally, and it hurts, right? But the value of taking care of your body now while you still can is going to help you get to that fulfilled life. Yeah, it's a habit that you're going to have to build up to and find a way to make it make sense for your life and your lifestyle. Not everybody's going to get up at 4 a.m. and go work out for 2 or 3 hours, or not everybody's going to be a bodybuilder like my friend Judah, who's been on the show. Not everybody's going to be into Peloton rides like me, or Pilates, or weightlifting. You got to find what fits you. A lot of times, your body will send you signals about what's going on in your life. What hurts is not always where the problem is, I've noticed that for my parents in particular, when they were younger, they had a life that was very active, and then they had kids and businesses and life just got crazy. And one of the things that went by the wayside for them was their physical fitness. And now that they are older and my brother and I had moved out of the house, they did have their own opportunities to start doing more physically fit things. And I can see how much it benefits both of them to integrate that back into their lives. And it gives them a bonding opportunity where they can both support each other, and they've created an environment that enables the two of them to do these things. They can get up and walk the dogs together. They can get up and do their Chuck Norris total body gym thing together. They can do yoga together. And it helps them stay fit and stay strong and stay flexible and capable. They have a brand new grandson here that they want to be around for, that they want to participate with. They want to be able to bend down and pick him up and not have their back go out. They have a partnership that enables them to have a lifestyle change that will support their longevity. And that's really hard to do, right? If you either never understood the importance of a healthy body to begin with, or you live in an environment that doesn't build you up or doesn't support you when you have bad habits that you've got to kick. And so I can see why this would be a regret for some people, and why they missed out on a fulfilled life because they didn't take care of their body before it started to fail them in their older age. Number 4, they thought they were in control of the outcome. One of their biggest regrets is that they lived their whole lives attempting subtle manipulations here and there. They tried to influence other people's thoughts instead of focusing on themselves and attracting who they deserved. They never experienced what it's like to attract a life-changing opportunity from good seeds that they had already sowed many years ago by simply being consistent with their authentic self. Oof. This one's a heavy hitter. I think it goes back to a lot of the things that, Mel Robbins has been going around as of the last year, talking about her book with the let them theory. One of the biggest causes of our own suffering and pain is that we are trying to control things that we actually have no control over. And one of the main things that you cannot control is other people's thoughts, other people's actions, and other people's choices. Now, don't get me wrong. You can have really great marketing, branding, the brainwashing, propaganda kind of stuff. You can convince people of all kinds of things. Sometimes, evil can beget evil, but true control over someone that's intimate in your life, a friend, a partner, boyfriend, girlfriend, your mother, your father, your brothers, your siblings, your cousins, whatever it is, your close, intimate relationship. When you try to put so much energy into manipulating them into their potential, or manipulating them into a new behavior that they're not ready to make, or a change that they really don't want to make, or maybe don't need to make, you are focusing so much on trying to fix someone else's problems. You're not looking at your own. And so when you spend way too much time trying to control the outcome of your entire life, you miss your life. You miss the opportunities that are right in front of you. You miss the doors that you could have walked through, or the windows you should have jumped out of when, the whole room was lit on fire. Like, you are spending so much time trying to attract what you think you deserve, or what you think will make the situation better, that you actually attract the same problem over and over again. And I have done that 1000%, especially when it comes to dating. There's a reason you keep dating a type, or there's a reason you keep making the same mistakes, until you learn that lesson, or until you build that confidence to go, my intuition is telling me this right now, that this is not the road I need to walk down. I gotta walk away. Until you learn to let go of trying to control every single aspect of your life, the external aspects of your life, you will not be able to live a fulfilled life, because you'll be focusing on other people instead of focusing on yourself. And attempting to influence other people's thoughts, actions, or choices takes away from the time that you could be spending on your own thoughts, actions, or choices, building a better life, saying yes to things that will bring you that joy. Because I don't know that I would ever want to live a life where I cannot attract those life-changing opportunities for good for me, because I want to make those kinds of life-changing opportunities for other people and bring good into the world too. And if I'm spending so much time trying to control other people at work, my coworkers, my managers, my media booker, my other people in my life, my new friends here in this town, or my parents, like trying to make sure they don't make the mistakes that our grandparents made, or vice versa, them making sure my parents don't make the same mistakes. Like, it's a lot, it's chaotic. And when you invite that into your life, you don't get to reap the benefits of anything good. Number 5, one of the reasons they regret things at the end of their life is that they were pessimistic. Pessimistic. Am I saying that right? They were pessimistic. They were negative. They were self-victimizing. There's something about your vibes that the rest of the world can feel, whether or not you put it into words. No one wants to spend time with people who refuse to let go of their morose character, because deep down, everybody knows that these people attract bad luck. Man, so being a pessimist, I know it's hard. It's really hard to be around somebody that constantly thinks that way, that only thinks of the negative, that can only think of what goes wrong, that can only think of how you messed up every time, that only focuses on the mistakes that you made, that only cares about what you did good or what you did bad. That's not somebody you want to be around, because that just drags you down too, right? I think the same thing goes for people that never follow through on saying what they want. It gets really hard to listen to somebody's story over and over again after a while, if they're playing the victim, or they're just playing like, this never goes well for me and everybody's against me, or this is why this didn't work out this time. People that don't take responsibility for certain situations in their life. Like, some days you're right. Some days the universe and karma, they're just coming for your ass. Like they're non-stop onslaught of, I don't know what I did to somebody in a past life, but Jesus, Lord, Yahweh, universe, karma, please give me a break. I'm due. I'm due for a break. I'm due for a win. I'm due for something else. But the self-victimization is another one of those things. I feel like if you spend way too much time not taking responsibility for, I don't know what's going on here, but I know that I can at least control X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to get out of here someday. That's the kind of person I want to be around. I don't want to be around somebody that, has an absolutely perfect life, who's overly positive all the time. It starts to feel a little bit like toxic positivity, unless you're Ted Lasso and then Call a Girl. Even though that's a fake character, I know that, guys. Chill. But the pendulum is going to swing. There are going to be moments in your life where you're like, this sucks, this is negative. And then there's going to be times in your life where you're hyper positive. But I just interviewed someone earlier this week who talked about pathological optimism, and that to be a pathological optimist just means that you relentlessly focus on the upside. You can acknowledge that there's a negative moment going on, but you will do your very best to find every possibility that's still available to you in that challenge, every potential in every moment. Most people are going to default to pessimism, but optimism is what's going to set you apart. If you choose gratitude, if you find the good, and you hunt down opportunity, even in adversity, optimism doesn't become just a mindset. It becomes a power move, and it fuels you to keep pushing forward when other people fall back. And I know for these list of regrets here that we're reading off, nobody wants to spend time with people who refuse to let go of their morose character. Nobody wants to spend time with somebody that only lives in the suck. Nobody wants to spend time with anybody who laments their inability to create a fulfilled life, because our mom used to tell us when we were growing up, happiness is a choice. There's going to be lots of moments in your life where things are not going to go well, or things are not going to be good, but you have to choose to be happy. You have to choose to find the good. You have to choose to acknowledge that this will end, right? Remembering that everything in life passes. Everything in life. And so if you only hang on to the fact that we're living in a shitty chapter right now, you're never going to be able to appreciate when the good chapter shows up, because you're still going to be so stuck in living in that terrible one. Pathological optimism, like this previous interviewer or interviewee was talking about this guest, that's what saved his life. That's what helped him turn his life around. That's what built better relationships for him. Having that pathological optimism helped him find opportunities to dig himself out of his own hole. And I think you should do that too. You don't want to get to your deathbed and go, man, I spent my whole life hating other people. I spent my whole life regretting all these things. I spent my whole life only focusing on my inadequacies, on my mistakes, on other people's mistakes, that I never actually found a way to just live. And I don't think anybody wants that. You can be all Ron Swanson-y that you want, say you don't need friends, you don't need relationships, you don't need anybody, blah, blah, blah. But if you're living in a hyper pessimistic world where you only believe in evil and despair and nothing good, then that is what you're going to find. And I don't want to live my life that way. I know that there's good that exists. I know that there's opportunities that exist. I know that there's moments, even in the darkest of my days or my darkest mental health valleys, there's something on the other side. And I need to find a way to get there, to her, to that next version of Amanda every single time, because I'm going to be able to pull something out of that. All right. 6, they never learned how to unlearn. They built an identity around who they were at some point, and they never let that identity go. Deep down, they didn't believe that they could change, and that was the main reason that they never did change. They never had the courage to move to an environment that would allow them to forget who they were. They never realized that they had never even gotten to the starting line when it comes to becoming who they could be. So this is huge, right? If you never learn to unlearn a bad habit, or to let go of an old identity, or to believe that transformation is possible for you and put in the work to create that transformative moment, or to go through that uncomfortable pivot of growth, you're never going to actually see who you could have become. The quote unquote, you're never going to reach your full potential. And I don't know that anybody should reach their full potential, because in theory that would make you perfect at some point. But the truth is no one's perfect. And that's kind of the epitome of being a human, is that you are not perfect whatsoever. And that's the beauty, is that you can be made of 1,000 pieces of shattered glass. But when you get put back together, or you put yourself back together every time, sometimes you get rebuilt in a new way, with a new lesson, a new capability, a new skill, a new scar that makes you who you are. And that's a beautiful thing, to unlearn something, to let go of things that no longer serve you, to choose to act in a different way, to choose to speak in a different way, to choose to believe something new when new data or facts or information is presented to you. The ability to change your mind is a massive opportunity. It's an incredible skill and useful, very useful for your own survival. And denying yourself that opportunity to grow because you just never had the courage to change your environment or to try something new is so depressing and unfortunate. Number 7, one of their biggest regrets is that they were arrogant. They thought that they knew better, even though they were neither wealthy, healthy, or happy. They never actually understood the value of humility. They didn't ask questions. They didn't seek to learn from others in depth. They coasted through life and felt entitled to good things happening to them just because they existed. Woof. I don't know how many of you have met a whole lot of elderly, arrogant people lately. I haven't. I've been lucky with the family that I have, but I know that they're out there, and I know that they exist, and they are spouting off a lot into the world. It's hard to let go of really malicious arrogance. And when it gets absorbed by people who either just don't know any better or don't have the critical thinking to look past it, there's nothing really more annoying than meeting someone who gives you that unsolicited advice, or they want to critique you on something that you've done, and yet that person does not live or project or walk in the life that you want or that you're aspiring to be. It's not helpful. It's hurtful, right? And it's unnecessary when things like that happen. If somebody were to walk up to you and, judge you or criticize you or make fun of you when they are neither wealthy, healthy, or happy in their own life, you can't take that person's criticism seriously, because they're not living the life that you're trying to go after. They're not emulating the person that you want to become. And so I have a lot of sympathy for people that act like this, and where they get to the end of their life and they realize that their arrogance really stunted their growth. It prevented their ability to make lasting relationships. It prevented their ability to learn new things or to grow, because they were okay with coasting. They were okay with mediocrity in that sense, or the belief that they were better than other people because they had been born into certain situations that enabled their life to just exist. But I don't know about you guys, but the moment when you can watch yourself work through something difficult, or work for a hard thing, or achieve a goal that you set out for yourself, that level of pride and that just the beaming confidence that comes from watching yourself follow through on a mission or a promise to yourself that you worked hard for, that you know that you deserved because you put your blood, sweat, and tears into that project or into that moment, and to finally achieve it, it's hard to beat that feeling. It's hard to beat that high. It's hard to chase that high. Again, not talking about drugs or anything like that right now, but somebody that acts like this, with that arrogance, with that ability to appreciate and desire mediocrity, they are never going to feel that way. They are never going to know what it's like to put in that kind of effort and reap what you sow in a positive way. Watch out for that. All right. Okay. Number 8, they lacked generosity. Good things happen to those who care sufficiently. They never took the extra step to ensure that their help would go through. They never reached out to their family and friends to see how they were doing. They thought, why should I be the one to make the effort? I'm busy and they aren't really reaching out to me either. And they never understood that it was actually a blessing to have people that you care about. Oh, man, we could probably do an entire podcast on generosity alone and why paying it forward in life actually brings more abundance to you, giving away more, or helping others brings abundance back to you tenfold. You may not get it immediately. You get what you give in life. To live a fulfilled life, a lot of that will come from a life of service, a mission of service. And that can come from any industry. You don't have to be just a nonprofit owner or a volunteer somewhere, or don't have to just be a firefighter or a police officer or a doctor or whatever. Anybody can serve others if you choose to share your generosity. If you choose to share your generosity with other people, if you make an effort to go out of your way to just be kind, to smile, to say hi to someone, to open the door for someone else, to take out someone's chair, to walk on the opposite side of the street from them, to ask them how they're doing and genuinely care and listen to the answer as well, to check in on people you know that might be struggling, to send that mom who's going through postpartum, offering to help clean her house or cook meals or babysit so they can go on a date, just going out of your way to help the people that you care about, have it a little bit easier that day. It makes all the difference in the world. And I think this one would be a really hard thing at the end of your life to look back on and go, man, I should have put in more effort here or there. Because that's something you're never going to be able to take back. You're never going to be able to put that blessing back out there into the universe again, because you never know how much time you really have with the people that you care about. Sahil Bloom, he wrote the book about the 5 types of wealth, and in that he does talk about the statistics for him when he finally realized that if I only see my parents once or twice a year and they're at this age and at this level of health, here's the X amount of times I will actually statistically be able to see them ever again. And if that's the only amount of time I have left with them, I either need to accept that and continue to live the way that I'm living my life, or I need to make drastic changes to boost that number up. And so he shifted his life around the things that became more priority. But that's the generosity, right? He had the privilege to be able to make those changes in his life, to put the people that he cared about more forward in his life. And you can't go back and do that later. You can't. All right. Number 9, another reason that they have regrets at the end of their life, they never understood how to take advantage of the serendipity of their environment. They didn't understand that a lot of talent was merely accumulated efforts in the right environment. They didn't understand that a lot of good luck was merely hanging out long enough in the right environment. They didn't understand that a lot of loving relationships were merely nurturing an authentic and consistent version of themselves throughout the decades in the environment that would appreciate it. Yeah. So I talk about this a lot with various guests, things that have impacted them or pivoted them or transformed them. A lot of that came from either acknowledging the current environment that they have or had in that moment, or changing the environment that they were in to dig them out of their hole or help them pivot away from that drastic moment or difficult life change. And they did take advantage of that serendipity of their environment and appreciated the nuances of the different ones that they had been in and out of. They didn't just assume good luck would come for them. These guests, they find ways to be in the room with the right person at the right time. Whether or not they knew it in that moment, one of the best things you can do for your own personal success is to put yourself in a room with other successful people and just absorb. You might feel like you're the lowest common denominator in there, and that's okay, right? Putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation and choosing to learn from it and find all of that practical optimism is good. That's how you learn about who you are and what it is that you want or don't want, or what you're good at or not good at. But you have to have the action to either participate in the environment that you have right now or change it to find one that's going to help you cultivate and flourish that fulfilled life or that success, however you choose to define success in your life, But I really like this, that merely nurturing an authentic and consistent version of themselves throughout the decades is what helped them build loving relationships. I think that's going to stick with me for a while. Number 10, they never acted with a long-term mindset. They always assumed that they didn't need much money or that it was too late to start investing instead of thinking about their parents or the potential children or grandchildren. They just assumed that they might not even live in the same neighborhood in a few years. They assumed that there were plenty of fish in the sea. They assumed that they could always make new friends anytime, anywhere, instead of fostering or compounding deeper connections with the people that they did know. The internet gave them the illusion that they were always a few clicks away from a life-changing encounter of better people, but they slowly realized that the older that they got, the less true it became. This one I kind of go back and forth with, right? Because everybody's telling you, live in the present, be happy, living in the present, stop focusing on your past, don't look too far in the future, you can't change, you can't manipulate your future, nobody knows what the future holds. It's going to make your head spin, right? Your eyes roll back. Stop worrying about your 5-year plan, your 10-year plan. But a long-term mindset means that you have an ultimate goal, right? You have a place that you want to be. You have a moment where you want to feel like I can finally breathe, right? And that moment may or may not ever come, but to never even try towards it at all, that's what's upsetting. I don't think there's ever too late of a moment to start over. There's never too late of a moment to change your life. There's never too late of a moment to make the right decision or to make a changed decision. Maybe you don't need a whole lot of money, but we live in a society now where money makes things comfortable. You can't sit here and deny that living in poverty is cool, or that you don't feel stressed, or you don't feel worried about how to make ends meet. Like that's not a reality I ever want to live in. And I know how hard it is for people that do live in that. I may look like I feel super successful, but there's things about my life where I'm like, okay, let's rethink this. I'm not going to sit here and argue that money's not important. It is, but it doesn't solve everything. Not really. I know that there's a statistical like amount. I can't remember if it's like 1.3 million or something. So Scott Galloway, he is a wildly successful entrepreneur and a podcaster, speaker, author who teaches people about the statistics of wealth and how to build wealth, and particularly spends a lot of his time trying to help educate young men to help them feel like they're not being left behind in society. He had a statistic that he shared a long time ago. I can't find it now, but it's somewhere on his Instagram or in his content where he explains that psychologically speaking, they've done studies on it, that after you reach a certain point of wealth, money stops bringing you happiness. It stops bringing you that value that you think it's going to bring you. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that being a person that cares about money is invaluable, because it's not. It helps people survive. It helps you pay your bills. It helps you get where you need to go. So I get that. But I think more so it's the chosen ignorance about money and how to use it to benefit your life, whether that's through saving or investing or where to spend it on certain products versus just constant online shopping or something like that. Like learning how to make money work for you in a beneficial way, no matter what you make, is important. So the lack of the long-term mindset here, where it's talking about like, oh, well, it's too late to start investing. I didn't make enough to survive until I was in my 40s. Instead of thinking about like your parents, children or grandchildren, what you do in your 30s will impact your 40s. What you do in your 40s impacts your 50s, and so on and so on and so on. So as you get closer to the end of your life, all the choices that you're making now compound on themselves, whether that's your health, your financial investments, your personal relationship investments, everything will compound. And so that's the long-term mindset I think people need to have. It doesn't, they assumed that they might not even live in the same neighborhood in a few years. You might not. Maybe you have a travel job, but if you want to settle down and invest in a home, that's where you would do it. They assumed that there would be plenty of fish in the sea. Fish in the sea is, that cliche breakup thing that people tell each other, oh, you'll find another one, you'll find another one. And at a certain point, sure, but being so afraid of commitment or flippant about when a relationship ends and not being, introspective about what's going on, what did I do to be a part of that ending, that, there may not be enough fish left over if you're just discarding people left and right because they are not meeting your exact bucket list, your exact checklist of who the perfect partner is. And the truth is, there is no perfect partner anywhere, because there is no perfect human anywhere. So at some point, you do have to just commit to making a decision. Is this person, at the end of the day, if I could only be annoyed, like my brother's speech to his wife, would you do me the honor of annoying me for the rest of my life? And she said, yes. Like, who is the person that, like, at the end of the day, no matter what they've done or what's going on in their life, do I love them? Do I want to show up for them? Do I care about them? Do I want to support them? Do I want to make them feel like they're unstoppable in this world? If that's your person, say yes. Doesn't really matter how annoying they are or their red flag. Like, you got to think about the whole thing, that long-term mindset. Like, if my back's against the wall, who do I want with me in my corner? Is it this person, or am I tossing away a fish for the sake of tossing away a fish, assuming a better one's out there? You got to wrestle with that, You assumed that they assumed they could always make new friends anytime instead of fostering and compounding deeper connections with the people that they knew. Ugh. Making friends as you get older, hard as hell, difficult as hell. I don't know. I miss my friends constantly. That's why I flew down to Tampa for a weekend, was, to go visit Stevie and her baby. And I haven't lived near Stevie since high school, but I've gone out of my way to make sure that I see her at some point throughout the years. I go out of my way to keep that relationship alive. I have friends all the way from high school to college to post-college that I still talk to, that I keep up with, because those were good people and relationships worth fostering. And I know that life gets hard. The older you get pulled in a bunch of different directions, but the people that you love and you care about, you have to invest in them too. If they're investing back into you, keep doing it. Compound those relationships, keep those deeper connections. And those are the things that can carry you through. The stuff where people talk about, like, we haven't talked in 6 months, and when we called each other or FaceTimed each other, it was like we just picked up right where we left off. Like, those are your people. Call those people, right? Like, invest in those people. Tell those people you love them. Give those people their flowers. You have to support your friends beyond the milestones you think that they care about, because there could be so much going on with them that you don't even know. But you'll get so much more out of that at the end of your life, because maybe you didn't have 10 best friends, but you had 3 relationships that you can look back fondly on because they carried you through everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's priceless. All right. So this is the final post on it. It just says, at the end of the day, they assumed it was too late to start a new hobby, a new project, a new life, instead of investing in themselves as if they were to live forever. They never understood how the best life that they could live would always involve a playful version of themselves who had mastered the right amount of detachment and who had learned how to enjoy the process, the craft, and the simple, foolish moments of life. So I can relate to a lot of these. People always tell you, you need to live a life without regrets, right? I dated someone once, it was like, I regret nothing, ever. Like, this mistake, I regret nothing. And the attitude was more on the erring on the side that I know best, right? Not, I regret hurting that person, or I regret that because it was a mistake, or because despite choosing my own happiness, it came with consequences, or it came with, what do they call it? Not radical damage, collateral damage. That is what I was thinking of. Yeah. Not acknowledging that you created collateral damage in your decision making in the pursuit of your own life, because you were trying to make selfish decisions, not necessarily happiness-based decisions. Not acknowledging that collateral damage existed in any of your choices. That's just arrogance. That's not necessarily living a life of no regrets. I feel like you can live a fulfilled life full of mistakes. You can live a fulfilled life full of bad decisions, sometimes, because you're never going to get everything 100% right 100% of the time. But living a life of regret is these moments that this person's talking about, right? In this social post, that living a life scared of commitment, living a life only inside your mind, living a life where you never understood the importance of having a healthy body, living a life where you had to control the outcome, living a life as a pessimist where you're negative and self-victimizing, living a life where you refused to unlearn either bad habits, bad thoughts, bad mindsets, living a life of arrogance where you think you know better despite not being any better off than the person that you are criticizing or attempting to humiliate, living a life where you lack generosity. You don't want to pay things forward. You don't want to pay back that friend that helped you. You don't want to take the time to go out of your way to do something nice for someone else. because you just simply don't have the time. Living a life where you never actually understand how to take advantage of what's in front of you in that moment. How do you find the serendipity? How do you find the positive? And how do you optimize your life to even have the ability to say yes to things that you normally would not say yes to? All of those accumulated efforts, when put into the right environment, is what is going to open doors for you. And never living with a long-term mindset. You don't have to have your entire life planned out and mapped out to the minute, the hour, the month, the year, but knowing that at the end of your life, when you get to say your final goodbyes and you look back on everything, what do you want to be around you? Do you want to know that you invested and built a generational wealth for your family? Do you want to know that you lived by example for something for them to follow through with? And everybody's afraid to some extent that when I die, nobody will remember me. Maybe they won't, right? But when you start to go live in that other universe or that alternate plane of the world, do you want to look back on your life and go, did I live a fulfilled life? And I know that that's a really hard thing to do when you're in the suck, when you're in a deep throes of grief, or you don't know who you are anymore. You just got let go of that job. You don't work for that. You don't play for that team anymore. You don't have that identity or sense of who you are anymore. So what's it even matter, right? What's the point? I can't tell you what the point is, because you have to hit your own rock bottom. I hit mine 2 years ago. Has it been all sunshine and daisies and unicorn farts and rainbows? No, it hasn't since then, over the 2 years. But I hit my version of absolutely not. No more. I'm not doing this again. I'm not stooping any lower. I'm not digging my grave deeper. I'm getting out of here. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know where I'm going to take it, but I know that doing something to pivot my life, doing something, anything to bring about change, is going to be far more beneficial than just staying here in the dark, sitting in the suck, blaming other people for why I got to where I got to. And I don't want that for you either. I hope that for any of you that have been here for the entire 2 years, I hope that the message you take away from listening to this show is that you have to find a way to create your version of a fulfilled life. You have to find a way to bring your own version of happiness here, because there's more than one way to live a fulfilled life, but the only way to live a fulfilled life is to choose one that feels true to you. The one where you're authentic, the one where you follow through on your wants and your needs and your desires and your feelings, the one where you decide how to get there. You decide what it is that you're going to do, what the changes that you need to make to build that environment, to get to that fulfilled place. But the first step is that you've got to be honest with yourself about yourself. And that's all I got. But I love you. I mean it. For all of you that have listened the entire way through, for all of you that have watched this the entire way through, thank you. I appreciate you. I hope you're getting as much out of this show as I get from creating it and releasing it into the world. It has definitely changed my life for the better. And if it's impacted you at all, at least in some way, shape, or form, then I know that it matters. It matters, even if it's on just a small scale. So thank you for being here. Thank you for celebrating the 2nd anniversary of the Lost and Found podcast, and for my transformation, and for sharing this journey with me. It means more to me than you'll ever know. So don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a review. You know how to find me. hello@podcastforthelost.com. Our website will be up soon, and I'm so excited. Check that out. I'm going to link it, but let me know what you think. Send me a like, subscribe, 5 stars. Reviews help so much. Sharing it with a friend helps so much. So whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, whatever, leave a comment, leave the stars. Let me know what you think of each episode. It really means the world, and that's what helps get us out there. The engagement on the channels tells the algorithm, hey, this is good stuff. I like it. So thank you for sharing. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here and for following along on this journey through the good, the bad, and the ugly. I appreciate it so, so, so much. So happy anniversary to me, and go out there, have the best day ever. And remember, wanderers are always welcome.